When a man pulls away emotionally, it doesn't just hurt, it lands in your body like rejection, not because he said no, not because he walked away, but because something essential, connection, disappeared. You replay conversations, you soften your needs, you wonder if you asked for too much. But what if the pain you feel isn't about your worth at all? What if it's about an old wound, his, not yours, being triggered? Unconditional unavailability, it feels personal. PMA-ANSPECH, emotional unavailability is often misunderstood as disinterest, coldness, or lack of care. But psychologically, it is rarely about not feeling. It is about not feeling safely. For many men, closeness once came with a cost. Perhaps as children, they learned that expressing emotion led to shame. That vulnerability invited criticism. That needing comfort resulted in disappointment. So the nervous system adapted, not by shutting down love, but by protecting against it. When intimacy deepens, their body doesn't register romance, it registers danger, and so they withdraw, not consciously, not maliciously, but automatically. Now here's where the pain deepens for you, because human connection is regulated through emotional attunement. When someone goes distant, your nervous system experiences it as loss. Silence becomes a message. Distance feels like dismissal, and inconsistency feels like you did something wrong. Your body asks, what did I do to make love leave? But emotional unavailability is not a response to your insufficiency. It is a response to his history. He may care deeply. He may even love you. But love, to a wounded nervous system, can feel overwhelming. So the moment things become real, he disconnects. And the tragedy is this: the very thing you're longing for, presence, is the thing his system learned to survive without. This dynamic creates confusion, self-doubt, and emotional hunger, not because you are needy, but because you are human. And humans are wired for connection. Emotional unavailability feels like rejection, because the nervous system experiences distance as loss. When emotional connection suddenly disappears, the body does not interpret it as a neutral event. It does not pause to analyze intentions or assign moral meaning. It responds the way it has evolved to respond to loss, because for the nervous system, distance is not abstract. Distance is separation, and separation historically has meant danger. Long before language, before reasoning, before adult relationships, connection was survival. To be close to another human being was to be protected, soothed, regulated. To be left alone was not merely lonely, it was life-threatening. The nervous system still carries this ancient memory. So when someone you are emotionally bonded to withdraws, your body reacts before your mind can intervene. Your chest tightens, your stomach drops, your breath becomes shallow. Thoughts spiral. This is not overreaction. This is the body registering a rupture in safety. What hurts is not simply that he is distant. What hurts is what that distance activates inside you. The sudden absence of emotional presence signals to the nervous system something essential is gone. The system does not ask, is this intentional? It asks, am I safe? And when the answer feels uncertain, the body moves into alarm. This is why emotional unavailability feels personal, even when it isn't. The nervous system does not deal in nuance. It deals in patterns. And for many people, especially those who learned early in life that love could be withdrawn, distance echoes an old wordless fear. Connection can disappear without warning. The pain you feel is not a character flaw. It is not neediness. It is not emotional weakness. It is the natural response of a system designed to seek closeness and to protest its loss. Modern culture often pathologizes this response. We are told to be stronger, less attached, more independent. But what is often labeled as too sensitive is actually a healthy nervous system responding to perceived disconnection. The body does not experience emotional distance as a concept. It experiences it as abandonment, even if no abandonment was intended. Because the nervous system does not run on adult logic. It runs on lived experience, stored memory, and survival cues. And here is the crucial truth. You cannot think your way out of this pain. You cannot reason with a nervous system that is sensing loss. Telling yourself to calm down or not take it personally often deepens the shame, because now the system is distressed and being judged. Your pain is not proof that something is wrong with you. It is proof that you are wired for connection. It is evidence of your humanity. What actually heals is not suppression, but understanding. When you recognize that your reaction is biological, not pathological, the self-blame begins to soften. You stop asking, "Why am I like this?" and begin asking, "What part of me is trying to feel safe?" And in that shift, something important happens. The pain is no longer a personal failure. It becomes a signal, not of weakness, but of a deep, unmet need for emotional presence. Because the nervous system does not crave perfection. It craves connection. His withdrawal is often a trauma response, not a verdict on your worth. When someone withdraws emotionally, the mind instinctively turns inward. You search yourself for mistakes. You replay moments, tone, timing, words. The silence feels accusatory, as if it is pointing at you and saying, "This is because of who you are." But emotional withdrawal rarely begins in the present moment. It begins much earlier, long before you entered his life. For many people, especially men, closeness once came with conditions. Love was not simply offered. It had to be earned, managed, or endured. Vulnerability may have been met with ridicule, punishment, or emotional absence. So the nervous system learned a powerful lesson: connection is unpredictable and intimacy carries risk. That lesson does not disappear with adulthood. It lives quietly beneath awareness, shaping responses long before conscious choice has a chance to intervene. When emotional closeness increases, the body does not register safety or warmth, it registers exposure. And exposure to a system shaped by early pain feels dangerous. Withdrawal, then, is not a rejection of you. It is an attempt to regulate overwhelming internal states. It is the body saying, "This is too much, I need to retreat to survive." Not because you are asking for too much, but because the system learned long ago that closeness leads to loss of control, shame, or emotional injury. The tragedy is that trauma responses are deeply impersonal, even though they feel intensely personal to the one on the receiving end. His nervous system is not evaluating your value. It is responding to its own memory. You are not being measured and found lacking. You are simply close enough to activate something unresolved. This is why reassurance often fails. You can offer patience, love, and understanding and still feel him pull away. Not because your care is insufficient, but because care itself can feel threatening when safety was never associated with being held emotionally. The mind wants to believe that if you were more attractive, more understanding, less emotional, more accommodating, he would stay present. This belief gives the illusion of control, but it comes at a high cost: your self-worth. You begin to carry responsibility for something that was never yours to heal. His withdrawal is not feedback about your lovability. It is feedback about his capacity for intimacy at this moment in his life. A capacity shaped by history, not by you. Understanding this does not mean excusing hurtful behavior or abandoning your needs. It means releasing the burden of self-blame. It means recognizing that you did not cause his shutdown, and you cannot prevent it by becoming smaller or quieter or easier to love. Trauma does not announce itself. It disguises itself as distance, distraction, emotional absence. And when it surfaces, it can make someone appear cold when, in reality, they are overwhelmed. You are not being pushed away because you are unworthy. You are being pushed away because closeness is touching a place inside him that still believes love is unsafe. And that belief, however painful its consequences, was not created by you. Men are often conditioned to disconnect from emotion, to survive early environments from a very early age. Many boys receive a quiet but relentless message about emotion. It is not always spoken, and it is rarely intentional, but it is absorbed nonetheless. The message is this: certain feelings are unacceptable, and expressing them will cost you connection, approval, or safe. When a boy cries and is told to be strong, something subtle but profound happens. He learns that vulnerability threatens belonging. When he shows fear and is mocked, or anger and is punished without understanding, his nervous system begins to associate emotional expression with danger. Over time, the body adapts because adaptation is how children survive environments they cannot leave. This is not a conscious decision. No child sits down and chooses emotional disconnection. What happens instead is a gradual internal shift. Feeling becomes something to manage, suppress, or escape. The body learns that shutting down is safer than being seen. Many early environments, families, schools, peer groups, reward stoicism in boys. Emotional attunement is rarely modeled. Comfort is often replaced with correction. Sensitivity is framed as weakness. Strength becomes defined not as presence, but as endurance without complaint. So the nervous system does what it is designed to do. It learns. It learns to mute emotion before emotion can attract danger. It learns to stay functional rather than connected. It learns to prioritize performance over presence. This adaptation often looks like maturity or independence from the outside. A boy who doesn't cry is praised for being easy. A teenager who keeps everything inside is admired for being self-contained. But internally, something essential is being bypassed. Emotional experience is not integrated, it is stored away. By the time this boy becomes a man, the shutdown feels natural. It feels like personality. He may genuinely believe he is just not emotional, unaware that what he calls temperament is actually a survival strategy. And survival strategies are brilliant. They work, they protect, they allow a child to endure environments that do not have space for his inner world. But what protects a child can limit an adult. In adult relationships, emotional presence is required. Connection asks for openness, responsiveness, vulnerability. And here the old adaptation resurfaces, not as a memory, but as a reflex. When emotion rises, the body returns to what once kept it safe: withdrawal, distraction, intellectualization, silence. This is why emotional shutdown feels automatic. It is not a rejection of feeling. It is a defense against overwhelm. The nervous system does not differentiate between past and present. It responds to emotional intensity as if the original threat is still there. To say that emotional unavailability is learned is not to minimize its impact. It is to recognize its origin. This disconnection was not chosen freely. It was shaped in relationship with early environments that could not meet emotional needs without cost. Understanding this does not mean accepting emotional absence in adult relationships, but it does shift the story from moral failure to developmental consequence, from doesn't care to he was never taught how to stay present with feeling. Emotional shutdown is not the absence of emotion. It is emotion held behind a wall that was built long before there were words for it. Inconsistency activates self-doubt in partners who are seeking safety and attunement. Inconsistency is not just confusing, it is destabilizing. When emotional presence appears and disappears without explanation, the nervous system cannot settle. It stays alert, scanning for patterns, searching for meaning, trying to predict what comes next. This is not because the partner is insecure by nature, but because safety requires reliability. Human connection is regulated through rhythm. We feel safe when there is continuity, when care, attention, and responsiveness are relatively predictable. When someone is warm one day and distant the next, the bond loses its rhythm. And the nervous system experiences this not as complexity, but as threat. For someone who is seeking emotional attunement, inconsistency creates a constant internal question: where do I stand right now? That question slowly erodes trust, not only in the relationship, but in the self. The mind turns inward because the external world is no longer stable. You begin to monitor your behavior closely. You adjust your tone, you measure your words, you try to reverse engineer what version of yourself receives closeness and what version triggers withdrawal. This is where self-doubt begins to take root. Instead of recognizing inconsistency as a relational dynamic, it becomes internalized as a personal failure. The thought quietly forms: if I were better, more calm, less emotional, more desirable, this wouldn't be happening. But inconsistency is not feedback. It offers no clear information, no solid ground. And without clarity, the nervous system defaults to self-blame, because blaming yourself at least creates the illusion of control. Safety is not created by intensity or passion. It is created by coherence. When responses make sense over time, the body can relax. When they don't, the body stays vigilant. Vigilance is exhausting, and over time, it distorts self-perception. What makes inconsistency especially painful? That it intermittently provides hope. The moments of connection feel like proof that closeness is possible, and when they disappear, the loss feels sharper, not softer. The nervous system becomes caught between longing and uncertainty, attachment and fear. This push and pull dynamic can gradually disconnect someone from their own emotional truth. You may feel yourself becoming smaller, quieter, less expressive, not because you want to be, but because you are trying to preserve connection in an unpredictable environment. And yet, the need beneath this adaptation is simple. It is not reassurance or perfection. It is attunement, the experience of being emotionally met in a way that is steady enough to trust. Self-doubt thrives where safety is inconsistent. not because the partner lacks strength, but because the human nervous system cannot anchor itself in uncertainty. When presence is reliable, self-trust grows naturally. When it is not, even the most grounded person can begin to question their worth. The doubt you feel in the face of inconsistency is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that your system is trying to make sense of a connection that does not yet feel safe enough to rest in. You cannot heal someone who learned that closeness is unsafe when someone has learned, often very early in life, that closeness brings pain, confusion, or loss. Their nervous system organizes itself around one central task: protection. This learning does not live in conscious thought. It lives in the body, in reflexes, in automatic responses that activate long before intention or logic appear. And because it is embodied, it cannot be undone by love alone. It is natural to believe that patience, understanding, or consistency might eventually convince someone that closeness is safe. This belief comes from care, from empathy, from the deeply human impulse to soothe what is wounded. But healing does not happen through exposure to love if the system receiving that love is not yet able to experience it as safe. For someone whose early experience has taught them that intimacy leads to loss of autonomy, emotional overwhelm, or betrayal, closeness does not register as comfort. It registers as threat, and when threat is perceived, the body does not open, it retreats. The more connection is offered, the more intense the internal alarm can become. This creates a painful paradox. The very presence meant to heal becomes the stimulus that activates defense, and because these defenses are automatic, they are not softened by reassurance. They are reinforced by it. In this dynamic, the partner who is emotionally available often takes on an unspoken role regulator, interpreter, caretaker of the other's emotional world. You begin to track moods, anticipate withdrawal, soften your needs, and delay your own truth in the hope of preserving connection. Over time, and love becomes effort rather than reciprocity. But no amount of attunement can substitute for another person's relationship with their own inner world. Healing requires awareness, willingness, and the capacity to stay present with discomfort. These cannot be supplied externally. They must emerge internally at a pace the nervous system can tolerate. Trying to heal someone who learned that closeness is unsafe often leads to self-erasure. You begin to trade your authenticity for patience, your clarity for compassion, your needs for hope. And this exchange quietly shifts the relationship from partnership to project. Understanding this is not about blame or resignation. It is about limits. Love can support healing, but it cannot initiate it. Connection can accompany growth, but it cannot replace the inner work required to feel safe in intimacy. When someone is not yet able to remain emotionally present, it is not a failure of your love. It is a reflection of their capacity at this moment. And recognizing that capacity allows you to make choices rooted not in fantasy, but in truth. You cannot heal someone who learned that closeness is unsafe, because healing does not come from being loved harder. It comes from learning slowly and deliberately that presence no longer requires protection, and that learning must be theirs. If there is one truth to hold on to, it is this: love is not meant to require self-abandonment. You are not meant to earn safety by shrinking, waiting, or proving your worth through endurance. The longing you feel for emotional presence is not excessive, it is appropriate. When closeness is met with withdrawal, it is natural to try harder, to understand more deeply, to hope that patience will eventually soften what feels closed. But there is a difference between compassion and self-sacrifice. One preserves your humanity, the other slowly erases it. You can care about someone's history without carrying it. You can understand their wounds without living inside them. And you can honor your capacity for connection without dimming it to accommodate another's fear of closeness. The most important relationship you will ever be in is not the one you are trying to save. It is the one you have with yourself. And that relationship requires honesty. Honesty about what you need. Honesty about what is available. Honesty about what hurts. You are not asking for too much. You are asking the wrong person to give what they have not yet learned how to offer. And choosing yourself is not a failure of love. It is an act of self-respect, because real intimacy does not ask you to disappear. It meets you where you are, fully present.